Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plan Commission ARB for April 3rd. If you have any phones or any other gadgets, please silence them. Ryan?
Steve Lichtenfeld,
Here.
Carolyn Gatus, Bridget McAndrew,
Here.
Bob Denlow, Helen DeFate,
Here.
Kami Waldman,
Here.
David Gibson.
Here. Okay. We have minutes from the previous meeting on March 20th. Are there any changes? No? Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move right into new business tonight, and we'll start with 701 and 715 Glen Ridge. Is the applicant here? Okay, thank you. We'll start with the staff report.
The subject properties are located on the west side of Glen Ridge Drive between Park Hill Avenue and Buckingham Drive. Both are adjacent corner lots zoned R6 medium density multiple family dwelling district. 715 Glen Ridge has an existing fence on Glen Ridge Drive. The fence encroaches into 701 Glen Ridge Drive by 5 feet and needs replacement. Due to extensive landscaping and the two property owners have agreed to rebuild the fence in the existing location. The proposed fence will be similar in height and material to the existing fence. Dual frontage and yard screening, including fencing, walls, and landscaping, can be commonly found along Glen Ridge Drive. The zoning code pertaining to the construction of fences within frontage limits the height of new fences to 4 feet. However, fencing and screening exceeding this height are common, and the fence will conform to the height and dimensions of the fence to be replaced. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed fence is compatible in terms of height and materials to the surrounding environment and recommends approval as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant come up, identify yourself, and add anything you'd like?
Hi, I'm Teresa Drake. I'm a property owner at 715 Glen Ridge. The frontage, as Ryan said, of my fence is 6 feet right now, the existing. The quote that we've received, well, the quote that we will receive imminently, proposes a 4-foot tall fence at 701, simply because it just would look better. It's going to be up to my neighbor to kind of decide that. It's either going to be 4 or 6. So I don't know if you need me to come back when he decides or whatever, but we'll see what happens.
Okay,
That's all I
thank
got.
you. I saw no problem with replacing the fence.
Okay.
It'll just look better than it does right now, and it's in the same location. But let's see if there are any other comments. Bridget?
I had no other comments.
No
Bob?
comments.
Helen?
No comments. Yeah, no
Amy?
comments.
David?
Comments.
Okay.
Even I.
I'm here.
Yes, I see that. Carolyn?
No comments.
No comment. Thank you. Do we have any problem with the 4 or 6 foot height?
That would be up to you.
Oh, then we have no problem.
Love it. Thank you.
We do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're on the way. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, 7424 York Drive. Is the applicant here? Okay, thank you. And Ryan?
Subject property is located on the south side of York Drive between Glen Ridge Drive and Audubon Drive. The property is zoned R2 single family dwelling district and is developed with a 2-story single family home and detached rear garage. The applicant is seeking to install 21 roof mounted solar panels on the detached garage. As proposed, the panels do not meet the requirements that solar energy collectors shall be set back at least 2 feet from any outside edge, ridge, or valley of the roof. The applicant is requesting alternative compliance to allow the installation of solar panels with no setback from the roof edge. Review by the building official and fire marshal have determined that the proposed configuration of solar panels will not propose a detrimental impact to public health, safety, and welfare. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed configuration will have no adverse impact on nearby property and will result in a minimal visual impact. Staff recommends approval of alternative compliance to allow the solar panels to be installed and operated as submitted.
Thank you. Please come up. Give us your name and address and add anything you'd like.
Sarah Lisa Ivaner, 7424 York. That pretty much covers it. I just want to put 21 solar panels on a non-inhabited detached roof. And according to the building code, International Building Code, you don't need to have a walkway with a clearance, 2 or 3 foot clearance around it, can go to the edge. And the reason why they have the clearance is so in case of a fire, a fireman can get on top. And when nobody's living in it, no fireman's climbing on top of a detached garage. They're just going to get it from below or let it burn down.
Is it 16 or 21?
21,
21 units?
no, 21, yeah, 21 panels.
And have you talked with your neighbor to your south?
I have, and she thinks it's great.
Good. It looks fine to me. Are there any other comments?
No, I was just going to say, like, in the future, I know, and I was on a lot of the emails that you sent back and forth. In the future, will this be something that we can administratively approve, or was it just because of that exception related to the fire code? Is that
Right. So we're, Ryan, after the discussion session previously, is going to draft up a slight change to add this. So if it meets the fire marshal and the building officials review for their codes and won't impact the safety, as she stated, then that would allow us for administratively to approve it moving forward, but it will require us to complete a text amendment, which will take a little bit longer for those advertisement requirements. And so instead of waiting until that, we recommended alternative compliance route for this request.
Thank you. I mean, I think we just adopted a new, so I think we'll continue to have to kind of be flexible and amend as we learn more.
Right.
So, but thank you for your emails and.
Sorry.
Bob,
No comments.
Ellen,
No comments.
Amy,
No comments.
David? Comments. Okay. We do have a staff recommendation to approve the alternative compliance to permit the solar panels as submitted. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Good luck with it. Thank you. Okay, our next item is 227 Crandon. Both a site plan review and an architectural review. And let's see, Ryan.
So beginning with the architectural review staff report, the subject property is located on the west side of Crandon Drive between Kingsbury Boulevard and University Drive. The site is zoned R2 and is located in the Clayton Gardens Urban Design District. The site measures 11,474 square feet and is developed with a 1-story single-family home. The applicant is proposing the demolition of the existing home and the construction of a 2-story, 4,207 square foot home, also single-family. The proposed home meets setback height, coverage, and material requirements for the Clayton Gardens and R2 districts. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed materials are compatible with the surrounding structures. Although taller than surrounding structures, the applicant has included design features, including landscaping and tree plantings as height mitigation measures. The applicant is pursuing alternative compliance for the addition of a front yard turnaround, which is prohibited in Clayton Gardens. The paving is proposed for a member of the household that requires a wheelchair and additional equipment that accompanies them daily. The applicant proposes that the paving will allow greater independence, flexibility, and ease of use for the future residents of the home. The design of the turnaround creates a parking area off the driveway that is also connected to the front walkway. The design minimizes the appearance of the pavement and also allows the site to conform with the requirements for the driveway width at the property line. The front yard also includes trees and landscaping to contribute to the character of the design district and does not exceed coverage limits. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed front yard design meets the criteria outlined for alternative compliance. Staff recommends approval as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Lauren? We're actually in architectural review before the site.
Oh, we are. Oh, I was just going to introduce Dave Bowles to present the site Or we're doing architectural first?
Well, that's where we began, yes.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Well, we can just bring those samples up. This is a traditional home with white painted brick and black windows. And we have limestone trim on the windows. The white painted brick is there next to Mark Melman. I do want to introduce, this is Mark Melman, the builder, and Kelly and Shane Ostapowitz. They're the homeowners. They're going to be moving into this house, and there's a color rendering. That's great. I think you all have all the drawings in your packet, but this is the color rendering of the house, and we're here to answer any questions you might have. It's a house very specially designed for Kelly and Shane, and should be very nice for them.
It looks good. It'll fit in the neighborhood. You've taken the appropriate setbacks due to the extra height.
We have.
And sometime in the future, there may be other two-story houses adjacent to yours.
Mhm.
Architecturally, I had no problem. I see, we've spoken about the alternative compliance in the front yard. I think it works out beautifully, and I'm in favor of that. Bridget?
It looks like a beautiful home. I don't have any comments either.
Bob?
No comments on this one.
Ellen?
Looks good.
Amy?
Yeah, beautiful home, but no other comments.
And David?
No comments.
Dave, could you show that to everyone? I don't know if they've seen it.
Steve, I'm here too. Don't forget.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any comments?
No, I think it was answered. I was a little concerned about the height difference between the neighbor's house and this house. That was the only thing I thought about. And then I think things will be different along the road. So
Yeah.
nope, no comments.
Yeah, they've taken under consideration all the Clayton Gardens requirements.
And the new home is actually a little bit lower on the site than the existing home because it's level to the ground. So it's actually slightly lower than the floor level of the house that's there.
So the first floor line is
Zero entry.
lower.
Yeah. Mhm.
Good. We have, are there any comments in the audience? We have a staff recommendation to approve the architectural review as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now
Now we
we'll
have,
move on to the site.
A full description of site plan review criteria can be found in the staff report, but I'll cover some of these key items. The height, setbacks, and impervious coverage as proposed are in conformance with the requirements of R2 and the Urban Design District. HVAC and trash meet screening requirements. The proposed runoff is a 0.08 cubic per second increase. Downspouts will discharge to a proposed dry well in the front yard to capture differential runoff. The proposed stormwater plan has been reviewed and is deemed acceptable. The proposed replacement of canopy coverage to be removed exceeds the requirements by 528 square feet, and 61.9% of the proposed plants are native. Public Works has deemed the proposed location of driveways, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and utilities acceptable. To ensure protection and maintenance of the dry well, staff recommends approval on the condition that the applicant shall record approved site plan with the St. Louis County and submit proof of the recording to the city prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Okay, thank you.
nice site plan, a nice landscape plan. There's a trash storage. Very nice landscaping plan. All the way around the house. They have worked with Baker Pool on a beautiful pool design, and Dave and I can answer any questions. Dave is going to explain how the water flows, I believe.
Yeah.
So if there's no quick questions on the site plan, this is the drainage area. map.
Can you just hold the microphone over for him, Lauren, or stand near that so Carolyn can hear you? Thank you.
I can stand here, but, so this is the drainage area map, and on the left is the existing drainage area, and on the right is the proposed drainage area. And what I tried to do is I break it up into various colors so you can see where the water currently goes and where it's going to go. So the green area drains towards Crandon. This is the existing side. And it all pretty much comes down to Crandon. And then there's a double area inlet right here in the street. So all the water in the green area comes down. There's actually a small wall here and a small wall here. So the entire front yard comes down and goes into that area inlet currently. The red goes to the west. So all this water, actually offsite water from the west, comes onto the site and currently goes off, and there's 0.31 cubic feet of water that currently comes down and drains this way. So what we're proposing to do is, first off, all of the roof of the proposed house is going to go into a dry well in the front yard. And there's a pop-up for that. So if that thing were to exceed a 15-year storm event, then the water would come up through a pop-out and get into that same inlet here. But you can see all the green water still comes to the front. And actually what we're doing differently here now is the offsite water that comes down onto us from the west, we actually have a drainage system that's going to pipe the water around and then to a pop-up right here. It's actually 3 pop-ups that then goes into the, so rather than having that water go to the south like it currently does, that water is going to come down and get into the inlet immediately. So in conclusion, we're taking all of the water that comes onto us, we're discharging it either into the street or through pop-ups, and there's going to be less water affecting the person to the south pretty significantly. We're going to be down about 25% of the amount of water that currently goes there. So that's the plan. It's a little complicated for a small house or a small site like this, but that's what it took to help these people to the south.
So you're remedying the water flow to the south,
Correct.
where many of the houses that sit lower than the Gay Avenue houses have had a problem.
Right. So we're basically taking the offsite water. Right now, all the water comes to us from both directions. It comes this way and it comes this way. And rather than just passing it through, we're going to take it down and put it into a storm sewer right here.
And there's sufficient capacity for the storm sewer to take all that?
Yes, yeah.
And then
This is a double area inlet right here. So it's actually a double inlet.
Okay.
So,
well, seeing it in color was much better than the black and white one that we received. So we thank you as usual. I have no problem with that. Bridget?
I don't have any comments.
Bob?
I like the colors too.
next time we're going to get it on the screen.
No comments. No comment, no comments.
David?
No comments.
Okay, we do have Carolyn.
It's okay. Out of sight, out of mind, I guess. I really appreciate the landscape plan. It's actually one of the better ones I've seen. So I don't have any comments, actually.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the audience? And there are no hands up. Lauren, you do understand the condition, which is pretty typical. Do we have a motion to approve with the condition?
I'll make a motion to approve with the one condition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. When will we see groundbreaking? You've done this before. Okay, thank you. Good luck. Okay, we'll move on to items 5 and 6, and that's 21 and 21A Dartford. Is the applicant here? Site plan. No, we'll start site plan.
So a full description of the site plan review criteria can be found in the staff report. I'll cover some of the highlights. Height, setback, and impervious coverage as proposed are in conformance with the requirements of the R2 district. Trash and HVAC are adequately screened. Proposed runoff represents a 0.129 cubic square foot increase. The flow well with downspouts is proposed in the front yard to capture additional runoff. Proposed canopy coverage to replace what will be removed exceeds the requirements by 100 square feet. Public Works has deemed the proposed location of driveways, sidewalks, and curbs to be approved. And staff is recommending approval of the site plan review with the following conditions. The demolition plan and SWIP sheets shall be updated to include the location and detail for the required construction fence and construction entrance, details for the washdown station, location of required tree protection for fencing and existing street trees. And the protection shall be added for the inlet located adjacent to the site on the east side of Dartford Avenue. And that they add a note to this SWIP that the BMP shall be protected from sediment until such time as a permanent vegetation has been established.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Scheffler? Or-
My name is Ken Scheffler. I'm Senior Project Manager with Clayton Engineering Company. I represent Mr. Slavin in preparation of the site plan.
Do you have anything to add to it?
I just did receive this last minute amendment. And I also wanted to point out that there was a number of revisions that were made to the site plan after the comments from Innovation, I believe it was, pertaining to siltation erosion control measures. There are a number of erosion and siltation control notes on the plan. Most importantly, inspection of and necessary repairs to the erosion and silt control measures must be made daily and are following periods of precipitation. There was a comment on there pertaining to schedule for street cleaning. There's a note on there, paved areas that have soil on them from construction sites should be cleaned continuously, at least daily, utilizing a street sweeper or bucket type end loader or scraper. This shall include the existing asphalt driveway used as a temporary construction entrance and washdown area. We also showed a portion of the existing asphalt drive to be used for the entrance, temporary construction entrance, number one, because there is an existing curb cut at that location, so they wouldn't be driving up over curbs. The other thing is it's a hard surface. It's a lot easier to keep clean throughout the construction time. So the area, for washing down, being a hard and smooth surface is a lot easier to maintain than a gravel surface. Those were the big items on the site plan that were addressed with the last submittal. The other one was a requirement to have an MSDP number. And on the most recent submittal, plans have been submitted to MSD. There is a MSDP number 23 MSD-00132. MSD has made their first review. Those comments will go back to them tomorrow.
Is that on the plans that we received, the P number?
Yes.
Right.
It's in the lower right-hand corner, just below the address.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it's the reference number. What about the landscape plan? Can you talk to that?
No, sir. I make stuff run downhill. I don't make it grow.
I can answer some questions about it and help out. Yes.
Would you lead us through it?
Essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to plant the back at the easement to give us a little bit of a visual separation between the university alleyway and the gymnasium, I believe, and the truck shed. There's a shed where they park their trucks. So we kind of want to visually separate that area. So we're kind of just mainly planting across the back. And I can't speak to the actual species and whatnot of trees. I apologize.
Well, they are listed. And actually, Carolyn, would you like to jump in if you have any comments?
No, I think I would check the circle size and make sure that they're close enough. It's hard to tell from this. I think they might be okay. But arborvitae, you know, tend to not get too wide. So I would just check on that.
Okay.
The rest of the species seemed fine.
Okay, so essentially it's on the western boundary that we'll see most growth, but there are some plantings on the north and the south also. And of course, around the house.
Yeah,
Little low plants.
correct.
Okay, and those are pretty well shown on our L1.1. So, Carolyn, you had no other comments on the landscape?
No, I think
Okay.
it's okay. Some of the, I would say be careful with the north is to the right. It's intriguing.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
No,
Carolyn,
I
say
said
it.
north is to the right, which is unusual for any plan. But I would just be careful of the AA, not the AA, I'm sorry. It's so tiny, it's hard to see.
The lowercase a is at the front of the house?
Yeah,
The liriope.
no, the A's are fine. It was the D's. I would be careful of the D's.
Okay.
But I think it's fine. I think you'll be fine. So no.
Okay. Let's go around. We're on site plan review and landscape. Bridget?
I don't have any specific comments about that.
Bob? Ellen?
No comments.
Amy?
No comments.
David?
No comments.
Anyone in the audience with other comments on this project? So, okay. Ken, you're representing Mr. Slavin, right? Okay, are you in agreement with all the conditions?
I believe the conditions speak for themselves. They have to do with erosion control, and I guess what I'm gonna need from the city is just either to better point out the notes that I have on the plan or find out precisely what they want, but I don't see anything pertaining to the SWPPP plan. The inlet protection, I do show on the plan that there's a gutter buddy installed in front of the inlet. I've got the detail on the second sheet of the gutter buddy that will protect that.
Would it make sense to have a meeting between Hannah and myself and Ken to kind of clear up any of that that's lingering?
I think it would be good, in the near future. I don't see a problem tonight. I do think we can go ahead and approve it with the agreement that you would meet with the professional staff to clear that up. Because we do have these late additions that just came in today.
It confuses the issue.
Yeah. We had no comments. We can go ahead with the staff recommendations, both the original on the staff report and the 3 additional ones that we received this afternoon. We have a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to approve with the original staff recommendations and the three additional staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and you will meet with staff to clear up those issues.
Thank you very much.
Mhm. We're not done.
Okay,
Okay, now, I forgot to ask you to identify
sure.
yourself.
I'm Chris Pike. I'm the architect of Thomas Allen Group Architects.
We'll let Ryan lead off
Yes,
with the report.
sure.
15,000 square foot site is located on the west side of Dartford Avenue, adjacent to the intersection with Aberdeen Place. Fontbonne University is located to the west. The property has a zoning designation of R2 single family and is currently developed with a single family house and detached garage. The proposed project consists of the demolition of the existing house and the construction of a 5,720 square foot, two-story, single-family residence. The proposed house meets the setback, coverage, and height requirements of the R2 district. The design proposes materials that are similar to those in the surrounding area. The house meets facade material requirements with the exception of the rear facade. Staff is of the opinion that the applicant should revise the rear facade to meet the primary material coverage requirements. The lot configuration and massing are larger than that of other homes in a nearby area, but is not of a size that would result in adverse impact to the surrounding area. Staff recommends approval on the condition that the rear elevation shall be revised to be clad in a minimum of 75% brick.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
No, I was just, if you needed me to describe the project or anything, single family, like you said. Residential, obviously, majority brick. The issue he brought up is we're about 60% brick on the back. And the rest is a painted James Hardy type product. So we felt it looked good. And we were hoping that we could get something like that through, but we are not opposed to raising the brick up the wall to get us to 75. We're not opposed to that, but you know.
Okay, so you are in agreement to that condition?
Yeah.
Okay. I do have a couple questions
Mhm.
on the architectural. Normally, we see the materials, as you saw on the previous application.
Okay.
Can you describe them to us? And
So-
then we'll decide where to go.
May I come forward?
Sure.
Okay. So brick, we're going with. Siding was the black James Hardy. I can.
Yes, if you could let it go all the way around
Sure.
and then end up with our staff.
I actually have one more piece. Bobby was just mentioning that it might be good to mention that it's the same brick and roof as 136 North Brentwood that we painted on 136 North Brentwood. So.
But you don't intend to paint this one?
The same brick is 132, the red brick that's there now.
Oh.
Same roof is 136.
My apologies.
Yeah, the two houses next door to each other.
Correct.
The same red brick that's up there right now.
Can you just repeat that into the microphone for the record?
So it's the same brick as 132 North Brentwood, which is that reddish brick right now. And it's the same roof as 136 North Brentwood, which is that dark gray asphalt, architectural grade asphalt shingles.
And that's the white paint.
And that's the white one, correct?
This house seems to have very little detail on it, on the front. There looks like possibly some rowlocks over the windows. Not much more. And when you look at the houses in the neighborhood, of course, they're quite a bit older. They tend to have a lot more detail, whether it's brick variation or additional limestone or something else. And even though the house is larger than the others, what I see, the main difference is it has less detail. And Mr. Slavin has built some other houses that have quite a bit more detail to them.
We're trying to simplify it a little bit. The existing house that's there right now is a little less detailed. Just trying to bring it back down to like what we call European manner, very kind of a mishmash of a couple different styles, really. We wanted the tumbled brick to kind of speak for itself a little bit and just kind of just be simple but elegant, more of classic versus we didn't want to doodad it up too much. So I get what you're saying, but we felt like we wanted to simplify it a bit.
Okay. That was my main concern. Otherwise, it's a beautiful house sited on a very large lot for that neighborhood.
Yes.
But I think the way the roof is constructed with the hip roof, it'll help it fitting in.
Mhm.
It won't look overly large.
Yes.
But let's go around. Bridget?
I mean, I had a similar concern, but I understand that everybody's preferences are different. It does seem to be very simple, but I mean, I guess I understand now that you've explained it, the point you were going for. It's a lot of roof to look at, I guess, on the west side, like from the west, but I guess that's the university, so.
Yeah, it's
You know,
an
there's not-
alley.
right?
Yeah, and a
So-
gym wall and.
Right, so I guess, if somebody's behind it, there's not, it just seems like it's a giant roof to look
Yeah.
at. So I don't really have any other comments outside of that.
Bob?
I'm a little concerned that the neighbors would be concerned about the appearance of it. I mean, if you didn't tell me this was a house, I would think it's a small office building. And I know your point, but none of the guise of simplification. It looks a lot less of a residential nature than a commercial nature to me.
Ellen?
I would agree with everybody before me. I think detail would help it fit in, look like it belongs. And given the brick that you're using, I think it needs detail. The brick is an old type brick. So it's keeping everything consistent. More detail would work. And the front, I took your dimensions, the front of it, not including the back area, which would be visible from the street, but the front facade is 63 feet, 8 inches. The lots in that area are 50 feet or 60 feet. I believe 60 feet is the required lot width now. The house with the simplicity becomes overwhelming, I think, for the neighbors. And the facade really isn't articulated. The two wings on either side of the center come forward about 2 feet, which it just looks massive. So other than that, I mean, personally, I'm all for simplicity. I like that, but here I think it's wrong. So,
Amy?
I'm in agreement. I think the front facade, like the scale of it, there's just not enough detail, to cause any sort of interest. It looks very flat. Even like the garage to the side, just like those two little windows, it just looks like it's the start of a design that hasn't quite come to fruition quite yet. I did have a concern with the back elevation too, but I guess that makes sense that it's facing the university, because really all you would see is black. And I'm just kind of curious why you want to go with like a black hardy board with a black roof, and that basically that whole elevation is black. Was there,
Yeah, it's
well, when you read it, it's kind of the same color.
yeah, we like the look of the color with the house, but yeah, we didn't want the second floor to look onto an alley, in the gym, so.
Okay.
So the look of the house, it stemmed from like a French farmhouse originally.
Bobby, could you?
Oh, I'm
identify
sorry,
yourself?
Bobby Slavin. How are you? Sorry about that. Owner, builder. So the point of the house was to be kind of like the Chinook House on Linden in Old Town. Basically, it'd be a very, very well done, tumbled used brick looking. The windows are expensive windows. That's gonna be a highlight of the house. And the shutters around the front door, which is seen often in those French farmhouses with the gas lights. There's also a house on DeMunn, I believe that was built about 4 years ago, a couple blocks in, that has a very similar, more of a modern look than this, but definitely limited on a lot of details. But the details in this house, it's just more like the quality of the materials are going to speak heavily on that. We went with the dark grayish black siding and the black windows over cream windows, just to add maybe a little bit more of a transitional look to the home, which I think is fitting with the neighborhood. I think that's important. Speaking to what the neighbors think, the neighborhood approved it. Although they would like us to have built 2 houses. To your point about being a large house, we tried to build 2 houses and we got denied. The neighborhood wanted 2 houses and they got denied. So we went with the single family home to appease Clayton. Designed it in keeping with the neighborhood. The neighborhood agreed that this home fits in the neighborhood. The size of it, with what we had to deal with, they were in agreement with. And that's about it.
Amy, did you have any more?
Mm-mm.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I actually really loved the rear elevation. Everybody else is reacting to it, but I think it's almost unfortunate that nobody else is going to see it. I like the design of the house. I think the beauty will come in the detailing for sure. And you're gonna have to have a good craftsman building that thing to make it really sing. But I appreciate the minimalist approach to architecture. So to me, I really actually liked it. So that's all.
And one more point that I know Chris already agreed to it, and it doesn't matter to me, but on that rear, if we do go higher than a wainscot of brick, we didn't do this to save money, whether it's 65% or the 75% that they were wanting. If we raise that brick, it's not gonna be as attractive on the rear. So I would hope that you would pass it at the 60%, because again, most people here know me. I usually don't build to save money. And that's just like by the features on this, it's not anything to do with saving money. But I would hope that they would approve it as is on the rear, because I do think it will be a better finish. A lot of thought was put into that. And again, I know some people just all of a sudden do siding on the back to save a little bit of money. I like the fact that it wasn't all brick. And I think to all of a sudden raise that wainscot to a higher level just to quote, make it more masonry, I think it would be a mistake, but that's just, we'll do what you want on that.
And we'll discuss it. David?
I don't have any additional comments.
From what you just said, Bobby, I would like it to stay as it is also.
Yep.
I think that it's on the back side of the house, and I really don't have a problem with it. I know it goes against our 75% brick rule, but when you take a look at the entire house in the totality, really, it isn't that much, except on that one west elevation. The other comment I wanted to make was the house is large, the roof is large, but it's a 712 pitch, if I read it correctly. And it'll be much foreshortened when we're standing on the street. So the roof will not be as prominent as it is on the two-dimensional drawing. So I would be in favor. We'll see what the rest of the commission feels, to keep that west or rear elevation at the 65% brick. Other comments?
I don't have a problem with the rear at all.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually like, when the picture came around, I think I like the look of the siding on the back. I think it looks nice.
And I'm very familiar with what you're facing in the back, you know. So it's-
Carolyn?
it's attractive.
Anything?
I
further?
agree. No, I don't have anything further. Thanks.
David?
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Then actually, any other comments in the audience? Stop. Okay, we have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted because the 75% brick on the rear will be neglecting at this point. Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Nay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I
Nay.
appreciate it.
When will you start?
I
Can
see
we
these
get a-
almost done, so
you wanna see
hopefully a couple months we'll be demo soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're coming to old business. It'll be 48 South Beamiston and 7745 and 51 Carondelet. And we're glad to see you back. But we will start with the, let's see, we'll be doing a public hearing, and that will include the PUD and site plan and rezoning, I believe. Correct? All three?
The rezoning and plan unit development require a public hearing. I'm gonna go through it all as one project though, because that's how it ends up being.
That's what I thought.
The public hearing is already open from their initial appearance.
Right. And it's a continuation of the public hearing.
Correct.
So we'll begin, and Anna?
The project was originally presented to the Plan Commission on February 21st and continued to a future meeting to allow the applicant to make revisions based on feedback and discussion during that meeting. The applicant has made a variety of changes in response to the comments. I'm going to summarize the reports for the rezoning, plan unit development, site plan, and architectural review together, as that's how the project is reviewed and presented by the applicant. So the PUD process is intended to foster an appropriate use of existing buildings, enable compatible redevelopment, which provides public benefits as it is identified in the city's zoning regulations. A reminder, a PUD must provide these public benefits to the surrounding neighborhood and to the city that are above and beyond, but can be reasonably achieved by the application of the zoning provisions of the original base zoning district. This site is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of South Beamiston Avenue and Carondelet Avenue. The proposed project consists of the demolition of the existing buildings, widening of the east-west alley, and construction of a 24-story mixed-use building with office, retail, apartment, and parking uses. I will note that the breakdown of uses is approximately 254 apartments, approximately 13,000 square feet of office, just over 1,000 square feet of a retail bay, and just over 4,000 square feet of first floor financial institution space, which is proposed to be the retail portion of the bank. There are 341 parking spaces proposed, which is one less than was originally presented. Our off-street parking is provided in the attached garage. The project is seeking relief from certain development standards set forth in the current high-density commercial zoning district. The table in table 1 included in the staff report outlines these modifications that have been requested. A total of 30 points is required per the planned unit development standards. Based on the revisions provided to staff's analysis is that the proposed project has reached a point total of 32, which is above this minimum requirement. Highlighted in the staff report in bold are elements that have changed. Briefly going over the changes to table 2, which is the review of the proposed public benefits, where staff has found an increase in points based on the existing review. The first category is the expansion of the pocket park proposed will incorporate underutilized portions of the adjacent property in addition to the subject property. This expansion will allow for a larger impact of the proposed pocket park, and staff's recommending 5 points. There's been a revision to the facade along Carondelet Avenue. There's now a recessed bench area with landscaping proposed. The curved wall will also incorporate architectural lighting. Staff has increased the recommended number of points to 2 for that enhancement, which accounts for the buffer plantings along both street frontages. The lead or the NGBS certification has been revised to go for a bronze certification as opposed to the silver level certification that was originally proposed. The building design features the curved wall along Carondelet to create a recessed seating area and lighting. This design element is not the same as retail or commercial space use buffering the parking from the street, which is as required by the zoning code. However, the feature will elevate the building design and create opportunities for activation of the public realm. Therefore, staff's of the opinion that this design meets the intent of the code to activate the street wall and is recommending 4 points. I'm going to briefly highlight some of the changes that you see that have been clouded in the packet. As I previously mentioned, there's the addition of the curved building facade along Carondelet Avenue. The pocket park has been expanded to incorporate the area on the adjacent property to the east between the property line and that adjacent parking garage. The depth of the accent band located along the 2nd and 3rd stories of the office building has been increased to accentuate this this feature. Along the ground level of the garage, the design has been revised to add the curved wall, which shifts the glazing up. So the first floor will include white brick, which features the vertical bands that are similar in the pattern and brick design as to other portions of the building. Colorful architectural lighting is also proposed along this curved area to increase the interest. The vertical mesh screens that were proposed along the north elevation of the garage have been wrapped to also be located along the east portion of the garage, visible from the pocket park. The roof line along South Beamiston Avenue has been altered to follow the lines of the recessed balconies. This proposed design creates interest along the skyline while maintaining a clean design style that is appropriate with the rest of the building. In conclusion, a PUD must provide public benefits to the surrounding neighborhood above and beyond what may be reasonably achieved by the base zoning. Staff's of the opinion that the proposed design and development incorporates our elevated architectural design that is compatible with the surrounding developments and will enhance the appearance of this major intersection. Staff is recommending approval to the Board of Aldermen for the planned unit development and rezoning with the following conditions. 1, a streetscape plan shall be reviewed and approved by Public Works prior to commencing installation activities. 2, parking spaces on level 1 that are reserved during bank hours must be labeled to clearly identify reserved hours versus public parking hours. 3, a minimum of 3 publicly accessible bicycle racks shall be located on or directly and adjacent to the development. 4, public art on the property shall include at minimum a monumental art piece in the pocket park and several compatible pieces along South Beamiston Avenue. A specific plan and rendering of the public art shall be submitted to the Public Art Advisory Committee and the Board of Aldermen for approval. In the event that such artwork does not merit 3 points, the applicant does not make timely changes, the PUD development plan shall be reconsidered by the Board of Aldermen. 5, all signage shall comply with chapter 425 signage unless a separate sign district specifically for this project is developed and approved by the Architectural Review Board. And 6, lighting facilities shall comply with applicable city codes and shall be arranged in a manner in which to protect roadways and neighboring properties from direct glare or other interference. And staff recommends approval as submitted for the architectural review.
Thank you. Who's going to come up?
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Oliver. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Green Street. You've previously heard from Jerry on our staff. He cannot be here this evening, so he sends his thoughts for not be able to be here. We're thrilled to be back here. We enjoy the iterative processes with cities. We believe the project in front of you is a beautiful building. We believe it'll add greatly to the city. In an environment right now where everything's very hard, especially from a cost perspective, we're thrilled that we were able to make the changes that we have tonight to present the project to you. We have several members of our design staff here that can walk through a presentation of those changes. Thank you.
Okay. Ready.
I didn't bring any batteries. That's fine too.
That's this mouse.
Oh, nice. Thank you. So my name's Tom Young. I'm representative of Green Street Development and HDA Architects. So I work on the design of the exterior of the building. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I know we went through the design revisions just kind of line by line, but I can just show you kind of before and after shots of what we propose. And then there's an animation that walks through around the building and then also into the expanded pocket park. So let me pull that up.
Sorry to interrupt you with the mouse. I'm just going to share the screen real quick for Zoom.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Trying to see if I could drag that out of the way, but or hide it. There we go. So this is a view from the southwest as previously presented. Some of the feedback we received was the building was kind of the same all the way up and relatively flat. So what we looked at changing, and the responses are over here. So if I click between slide 1 and slide 2, you'll see we did several moves. So we removed the balcony caps at the top of the building just to create kind of a crown to the architecture. So again, not the same all the way up. We also extended, there was a metal frame that framed the commercial use of the second floor. So we extended it up 1 level and actually made about a 2-foot projection. So there was more depth to the facade. I believe there was some feedback that that was one
thing we wanted to see was a little more depth of facade. So I'll go to slide 3. This is just a closer view of some of that detailing. So again, what we previously presented and the modifications that were made. So again, raise that brow up just to give the building more of a little of a base, and then extend that projection. So again, before and after. This is the southern portion of the garage. Previously, we had talked about, retail down at this lower level, and we had just extended the glass to try to illustrate that. But just if you saw the garage plan beyond, we were really scrambling to get all the parking spaces we needed. So at the last meeting, we did talk about a previous concept we had, which was basically losing a space. We had to re-articulate how some of those were planned, and we would pull this in, and in the spirit of a Dan Flavin, like have an illuminated art piece. These vertical lights that could be color changing and add some interest in the evening hours. There'd also be a bench that would kind of raise up, so provide a little bit of a breakout space as you head east down Carondelet. So again, before and after, you can see the depth of that added brow. I know there was some comments and feedback about maybe this facade was flat all the way across. So we did add that brow and extended it up just to give more of a base and align with the garage podium. So again, a couple modifications on this facade. As we look at the south, this is kind of a bird's eye. This is that second story terrace that's dedicated to the second floor commercial office space program. So again, before and after. So we did a couple things here. We added back in that green down at the base of the building, removed the glass, provided that recessed illuminated art piece, and then also added that brow frame. So again, some more depth and projection. And as the pedestrian moves their way east down Carondelet, again, you'll look up and you'll see this in the animation. That brow adds a lot of depth, but also just the fact that the facade plane breaks and recesses in to have that outdoor space for our second story office program is kind of a nice detail. So this is down at the low end of the site on the southeast corner. It drops approximately 13 foot from the southwestern corner of the site. You can see how this curves in, and kind of a sculptural bench will raise up as well. Right now, the animations are showed as kind of an ivy, but it's really, if you look at the landscape plans, it was kind of hard to model and render all that, and not only these slides, but in the animation. And we also, there was some feedback about maybe how tight some of the sidewalks were. So we have some diagrams to go through as well about how we pulled. Well, there's a couple alternate details about how wide those sidewalks can really be. So as an example, after our last meeting, we went and documented all of Carondelet, including all the existing Centene garage improvements that were recently made. So as we work our way down from the east to the west up towards our site that is outlined in red, you can kind of see here. So as an example, this is the new, or the existing garage for Centene that was just repainted and re-landscaped. So this is the standard currently as exists. That's a 1 foot 8-inch masonry up against the concrete curb, and then this projected tree basin, which leaves a remaining 5 foot from the edge of that brick to the edge of the planter. So as we work our way down the street, I'm just going to show how that varies and what we proposed. So as we move one step down, this is what currently exists. This is our site, so you can kind of see it framed out here at the bottom of the slide. This is that same edge that's down in front of in the previous slide. So this edge right here. It stops here, and what we're proposing is just continuing that all the way up, and that's where we added back in that green landscape at the base of our building. So again, this is what you see here. There are a couple different options for how we propose the tree wells, and get your feedback and get your thoughts. So that is that 12'3" that I've showed in the previous 2 slides. So we're just going to continue to match that as we move to the west. There are 2 options for how these trees can occur. They can either shift over another 1'8" as it is just to the east, which would make this 6'8" clear 5 foot, just like it is to the east. Or we could bump them out as there's precedent around this area and all along Carondelet where it is right up against the curb. So it's whether you want to continue that same detail. Again, I'm going to slide back all the way to the east end of where that tree well is not pushed all the way up to the curb. So it is tighter. It's that 5 feet, but that's kind of what is already set up all along Carondelet over to the east side, which was recently improved. So point being, we're happy to go either way. We did slide these over just to make it a little wider, but we can go with either option. And this has to do with along Bemiston along the west edge. So this is the existing Sterling Bank site. So Bemiston looking north. I added some of this because in the rendering, you'll see in a second, it's flipped the opposite direction. So maybe a little confusing. But this is that secondary detail where those tree wells are pushed out and that 1'8" brick border doesn't continue. So it gives you a little more breathing room on the sidewalk. So I'll flip from this slide to what we're proposing. Again, it's looking from the opposite direction, looking south. So we're maintaining that same 9'8". These trees will be pushed out to that curb. And then we're adding an additional 3-foot volume of basically landscape at the base of the building. So it'll feel wider than what we have here. So basically our new planter will occur where the face of the existing Sterling Bank does. So that's that view, again, flip the opposite direction. So as far as the tree wells on the southern edge along Crondelet, we're fine with going either direction. I think there was just some comment that maybe even the standard's a little too tight, but it has already been implemented further down in front of the existing Centene garage. So we'll defer to the board for that. So I'll flip back over to the pocket park. So last time we met, it was quite a process to get Centene's approval on what we could provide on their site to improve this pocket park. So we have gotten approval. So we do show it extended on their site. So just for reference, there's a couple of existing transformers there that can't be moved. So we were going to hire an artist, and we've successfully done this on other sites that will come in and kind of just make them more of an art piece, and they can still be accessed and maintained. But we're going to have that same artist provide some murals on our garage first floor. Right now, the first floor of the garage, due to rating requirements and adjacency to a property line, needs to be a CMU block wall or some rated masonry. So we were going to have an artist come in and paint all this at the same time. So you'll see all this in the animation, but just wanted to bring that up to say the other thing we did was we wrapped that screen material. That was some feedback, I believe, that Helen had at the last meeting. We wrapped that down that eastern edge of the garage so it's continuous up along the alley as it turns the corner. And this is the stair tower, the rated stair tower from the garage and from the amenity deck above on the left. And we'll have some landscape that kind of softens that edge on that eastern facade of our garage. So this is just kind of from within that pocket park viewing out. Centene is going to allow us to basically put a paver system that could have these little breakout seating areas and some landscape. We're not going to plant anything, but we'll have some large scale planters with trees and some other plants just to kind of soften the edge of their garage, some overhead lighting, and then the same kind of planting arrangement and with breakout seating on our side of the site. We looked at other plans that had more kind of a circuitous pathway through the alley, but we did like the idea of it being open and a clear shot for security reasons. And again, you'll see that in the animation. So review animation, there we go. So I don't know if we can escape out to the folder that I had pulled up right here. Hopefully this plays okay. Oh, yeah. Let me, do I do that? Yeah. Do share. I guess I could just do screen, right? So just starting from that southwestern corner, it probably moves slower than it needs to, but we'll just let it play. So some of this, some of the board members were at our first review, and I know the last one, a lot of folks were out for spring break, so it seems like we have a full house tonight. So at the last meeting, we talked about how we had these masonry pilasters at the base of the building to create a different pedestrian experience at the base of the building, and each one of these pilasters would have basically washed with light from the soffit above and have some interesting brick detailing asymmetrically placed on the masts. The primary focus was that Sterling Bank, the existing Sterling Bank, is our partner on this project. So they will have their retail location at the corner. So as far as at the pedestrian experience, that was the feature, was their recessed entry. And you'll see that there's two other circulation points along this western edge. So the middle being for the residential apartment above, and then a small 1,800 square foot retailer just to the north of that. And I will say, this animation doesn't look, and you'll see from the elevations, but our architecture, we don't have a podium, a garage podium below our building. It's actually offset. So the full 60 to 70 foot of our building, we're wrapping our facade down the alley. So you don't have a condition where like there's an exposed garage. Our secondary garage screen really starts beyond that edge. And you'll see that in some of those northern renderings that were in our packet. So again, this shows the tree wells won't really protrude like that. It's just kind of a modeling thing, but we have articulated the entries with a recess so that it does feel more like an entry with articulated paving below, architectural trellis piece that does stick out and indicate as you're walking down the street that there is something of interest at that recess. For now, we just showed some signage. It's just generic. It's, there'll be some branded signage for the tenant and for the apartment building. So again, that's that added 36-inch vegetation. And we're just showing something generically as ivy, but you'll see the more detailed landscape plans as part of our submittal. And then really that's a 36-inch projection plus the additional 2 feet that is an architectural projection for the brow above. So it'll have some nice depth as you circulate around the base of the building. Sterling's recessed entry to their retail location. Some linear frit patterns will be pulled down to align with the balconies above. So to tie the apartment tower and the commercial base together with some articulation. As we move our way around the south, you can see grade starts to drop pretty significantly as you move your way to the east. But we're still kind of implementing some thoughtful brick detailing. The animation didn't write that great as far as how these lights are flickering and everything, but you can see we're implementing that same architectural detail adjacent to a lighting installation that hopefully can be color changing. And with the white brick, we think it'll be nice because it'll wash that brick with and not muddy up the temperature of the fixtures. Fritted glass above and at the garage screen or the garage facade. So this is where we turn the corner, existing Centene garage on the east. There is an existing tree there. That's probably not necessarily representative of what the species is, but they do have planting and a base at the base of their garage. So we would just extend that over and extend our landscape base at the south end of our facade around the corner. As I mentioned, we'd have an artist come in and this edge of this walkway really aligns with the property line. So again, on Centene's site, we are just planting plants and pavers that could be pulled out if needed for any maintenance reasons. But they are going to allow us to anchor lighting to their garage above, so we don't have secondary poles or anything that could muddy up the design. And again, all this detail is really illustrated in that landscape package. And this is not the actual design for that CMU wall. Like we would hire a muralist to come in and then have, as mentioned earlier by Anna, have something approved. So we'll just kind of finish the rendering by our animation by working our way back up to the west, up the hill. So parking off to the right for the commercial space and for the apartments. This is where you can see, again, we've illustrated those tree planters all the way out to the edge of the curb. We could pull them in if needed. Like I said, there's already a 5-foot present down the street, so that would be fine too. And then again, we're calling it out as basically a integrally colored and basically a ground polished concrete bench for a place to sit with some protectors to prevent, I guess, skateboarding along the edge. I don't know, Lee, if you want to speak to the landscape designer, if that can comes up as part of questions here as we work our way through. Presentation. So here was that landscape plan. And Lee sent me over some images to install in PowerPoint, and you can see, there was some question about this linear dog park, and there was some precedent for it as an example. Precedent for what trees and planters will be planted through the site, overhead lighting, and chairs and tables and such. So that's it. I also have the full submittal that we could pull up, or I don't know if that's easier for you guys to drive, but happy to do it if I can. I don't know how to escape out of this though.
Are you ready for comments?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Okay. The last thing we looked at was the dog run. How do the residents get there?
So currently, let me pull up that plan. Or at least our submittal. Guess that's how you open PDFs or Acrobat. Sorry, it's gonna take me a second to get there. But basically on the north side of the lower level of the garage, there's internally planned like move-in spaces and a dog wash area and storage. So they would be accented through the lower side of that garage, if that makes sense. I can pull the plan up.
So they wouldn't come out on either street.
They could potentially come down through their lobby and work their way around, or they could come down through the core of the building and then go out through the garage, out a side door.
Hopefully they'll go through the garage.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Here we go.
All the planting may negate the use of the dog run.
So if you can see, there's a core that comes down and then they come straight through. There's the move-in space for trucks. They have storage, and then there's is this bike storage and dog. I believe there's like a dog cleaning space or dog wash area. But yes, they would come through this door here out into this park space. And this diagram, while we have it up, you can see how we re-articulated some spaces to pull this recess in, and we ended up losing a space because we were able to find another one somewhere else. So this still represents the public spaces off hours, and I believe the yellow, I don't want to misrepresent, our public spaces once the bank closes.
Okay. I'd like to go back to where we started with the rezoning and the PUD and then the site plan review and then architectural. And we'll have one more after that. I really had no problem with the rezoning at all. I don't know if anyone else has a rezoning issue. Raise your hand. Or Carolyn.
No.
Thank you. And the planned unit development. I think I followed everything from where you were previously. I was in agreement with the staff points, which gets us to 32, I believe, which is sufficient. So I really, all my questions have been answered. So I had no PUD points for the public benefits issues, but were there any other PUD benefit issues?
I just had a couple of questions about like details of the PUD. So just in terms of the green roof system, why did that go away?
Was there a green roof system plan on the tower, Josh? There was at some point on top of the garage. This was back at the concept review, but it went away just because of the costs. And also, I think there were some solar panels over there. And once we investigated like how much you'd actually get out of it and the concerns about the green actually working, it got pulled out.
Okay, I just couldn't remember after last time if there had been one, and yeah, so from a sustainability aspect, it's always nice to have the green roof, so. And then the street level art element, where are you gonna put that?
So there was
Not a lot of space, so.
there was, part of it is like the idea of like installing it in the pocket park. So like really the pocket park is this public benefit, and we wanted to have a muralist come in and do some work. But then also kind of the lighting piece at the recess bench, like we view that as kind of an art piece, like again, in the spirit of like a Dan Flavin, that would be part of, so a couple different art pieces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just, like from the.
But it's not, there's not like a physical sculpture, no.
Right. And I understand that. I just, from the points perspective, and I guess I'm envisioning, because I'm on the Board of Aldermen, what will happen. And so, because you guys are given points for this street level art element, but that's different from the public pocket park where there's also points. So I'm just I just want to make sure that we're not doubling up in places so that we're clear on.
I think that was our plan was that illuminated art piece at the bench would be one component, and then also the muralists coming in and painting the walls along the pocket park.
Okay.
So would you be going to the Public Art Advisory Committee with both of those as one?
I think that was the plan. I think we've done this previously where it was approved at like 3 points, and then we have to adhere to that. And if it doesn't, it would then get pulled back, if we don't, meet that 3-point requirement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's one of the conditions.
So just to clarify, we'll make note of this for the Board of Aldermen when it gets to that point. So the actual sculpture piece and the small pieces that originally were proposed along the planting bed, remove those and replace it with the lighting piece and the mural. is what we're
Correct.
Proposing, okay.
Correct. And we did, like I said, there was a couple different plans that had like a sculpture in the park and more of a meandering path. And there was security concerns, not only by us, but also Centene about what that could be. So then we said, well, if anything, let's enhance some of the perimeter walls. And we've done this on other projects where you just hire a muralist to come in and do some interesting geometries on the facade.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to figure out in terms of, I mean, Anna, if you think we're still good, I guess, yeah, like you said, clarifying it for, because I know that will be a.
Right, how we're recommending it and to approach art from a staff perspective right now is to do a kind of a highlight of where they're proposing art at this point as conceptual review, and then tie it to going back to the Public Art Advisory and the Board of Aldermen, and then should it not be deemed to meet the 3 points that it was granted, they would have to make revisions or the points would be revised.
And then a few other questions, just in terms of the parking issue. I mean, I think it's fantastic that you guys are providing the public parking after banking hours. That's a great asset to the surrounding area. I know that there's 6 spaces provided anytime. And I just, again, I think that's great because, I guess, but I just, people don't want to pay for parking anywhere. So I hope that you guys have some sort of system in place. I would figure that out for the 6 spaces available anytime.
Yeah.
So, because people will obviously take advantage of that. So,
Yeah, how it's regulated.
right. Again, I think it's great that I think it's a huge advantage to provide that parking after hours, like after bank hours, but just, those 6 spaces, if they're just available, will definitely be taken advantage of. So, and then in terms of the residential garage, do you guys plan to wire things so that, I mean, I just feel like just so that it's available, that there will be more electronic charging available. I know you're providing a lot, I think 8 for the residents and 2 for public use, which again is great. But it just seems like we're having more and more electric cars. So the availability to, I guess, add more, I hope that will.
I know in this and other developments, we end up providing a certain quantity, but then ensure like transformers are sized so that it can be an upgrade to a
Right.
tenant. Yeah, roughen the conduit for it and so on, but.
Right, okay, sounds good. And then. I think that's it for now. Thanks.
Bob, on the rezoning and PUD?
Rezoning, I have no problems with having a PUD. That's fine. But what the hell, I'll talk about the architecture a little anyway. I think you made definitely some improvements, and I applaud you for that. And for a walkway stuck between 2 garages, I think you did improve it. But it's still a walkway between 2 garages, but I think you did as well as one could do. And I think having the walkway, the dog park it's very tiny, but you got to do something if you're going to have a residential component in your building.
And that's, we debated having it wider, but we did like the idea, and I think Anna and her team did as well, as like having a connection through for future developments to the north, but also just for security purposes so that you weren't cut off by somebody passing through the south end of the park.
And I would definitely vote to move the trees as close to the curb as possible to have as much walkway for people.
Yeah.
You know, we're inviting people to live in Clayton to have, you know, families walk hand in hand or whatever. And giving them as much width as possible allows us to be truly a multi-use downtown. And I applaud you for really working at that, on that issue. I'm just kind of curious, can you go back to the top of the building, what it looks like now?
Yeah.
I kind of ran by that. I was just trying to see how it changed.
Is that architecture?
Yeah,
I
it's
could do it now, or I could
architecture,
do
yes.
it whenever. Yeah. So, so this is what we had previously, was just a continuous edge up at the top. So we looked at just pulling in and notching out, which basically structurally, it doesn't sound like much, but structurally it's a kind of a big deal. We had to like make that slab thicker and add additional drop downs to achieve it. But to recess it in, it just creates an interrupted edge at the top of the building and creates kind of four more masses rather than just maybe a large facade. And I know there were some thoughts about the office building in glass, and that we just want to reiterate, you know, it's also got I'm off of my count, but 8, 9 balconies per floor over the 20 floors of residential, 21 floors of residential. So that's a lot of balconies that you wouldn't see on an office building. And there are also no glass residential buildings in Clayton currently.
Let me jump in. From what you said about the roof, I originally liked the original roof line, but I've come to like this because I think it gives a tension up there that the building needs. Otherwise, the building is pretty flat looking, even with the recessed balconies. So I like this, but I don't see the mechanical enclosure up there, nor do I see the context to the north of the building, which we do like to see. I think we know what's in there, but
Yeah, there is an edge, like we recessed it as far as we could off this western facade. You can kind of see it ghosted in up here. There is a mechanical screen beyond, and it's in some of the packets. I can go to that PDF. Would you mind escaping me out of this presentation? Thank you. So I don't know how to zoom in. So this is a view from the north. So there's that mechanical screen that is closer to that edge. Yes, you'll see it. And from the north and from the east, especially the further you get away from the building.
had you considered running the glass up?
We had considered it, just the impact of the cost was a major concern. And that's kind of where we've been the last 18 months, was trying to figure out how to get this thing to pencil.
It just seems to me that the mechanical screen up there sort of detracts from the appearance of the whole project.
Okay.
But sorry, I broke in.
No,
Were you
no,
finished?
that was a good point. With that, I'll move on.
Thank you.
Ellen?
Okay, you really did listen to me the last time about sidewalks. No, I like the tree as close as possible, the tree well as close as possible to the curb. And my only concern is that on Carondelet, your planting is in the public right of way.
Correct. So the previous design did not do that. We just showed sidewalk, but we thought, and no one was a huge fan of that. So we kind of quickly put together some concepts while we were here meeting, but we just assumed that this was approved right down the street, that we would do the same thing. So we just took this planter edge and just ran it down the street. If that makes sense. So we can pull it away and make the green go away, but that was our understanding, was that everyone kind of liked the idea of having a green buffer at the base of the building.
Okay, I'm not fond of encroaching upon the public right of way, but I think in this case, the greenery really helps and adds to the good feeling about walking down that
Yeah.
street.
That's what we're hopeful of, because we acknowledge we don't have that retail component, but we thought between adding that kind of public amenity, that bench art component, but that this is just a before and after slide was, you know, the harshness of the concrete, which occurs all the time in an urban condition. We just thought it was nice to have, this is ivy, but there would be other plantings, but especially after we walked the site and looked what was done down the street, we just thought it was nice to continue it up to the western edge.
Okay, the other thing that I'm wondering is it is planting on Beamiston and it is behind the property line. Have you thought about kind of the formed furniture that you see like cubes for sitting?
On
that
the,
you could- On the Beamiston side, South Beamiston, that if you have a coffee shop there, that you could walk out and sit down with your cup of coffee.
yeah, potentially. So I'm trying to find where that slide is, sorry. So there is potential that we could add more pavers and have hardscape and break out little cafe outdoor seating areas. We were hopeful, I think, I don't know what, is it 42 inches of clearance? Like what is the requirement that you have to maintain to have dining on the site?
Right. So through the outdoor dining, it's 5 foot that they have to maintain, and that can't include any of the tree well area.
Right. No, I'm thinking instead of the planting, just have simple, like a cube-like form.
Yeah, potentially. And maybe that could be part of that like kind of art concept
Yeah.
or something. And it
Instead
wouldn't be,
of the planting, right next to the building.
Yeah. and it wouldn't be too dissimilar from what we're doing on the south facade where we recess that bench and it's just
Yeah.
a spot to sit down for a minute or take a break.
That type of bench where, you know, if you had 3 cubes, you could sit on one, I can sit on the other, and we can put our coffee in between
Yeah.
and talk if we want.
Yeah, and even if there's line, be a good spot to sit and wait and yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So other than that, I think it's fine.
Jamie?
Yeah, I had no other issues with the changes with the PUD. I do like the widened sidewalks too. I think that's great for the public.
Carolyn?
I didn't have any issue with the PUD. I do have to say that I do not agree with Helen on getting rid of those plantings. I think it's really a nice continuation of what was going on at Centene. I would encourage you to add some benches in, and Landscape Forums has a really cool curved bench that maybe Helen's thinking of. That's actually just a something in their, you know, palette already. And it would be really interesting to see something like that happen there. And then I did have to say, I love the Dan Flavin reference. He's one of my favorites. So that was kind of cool that you guys thought
Sorry,
of
I'm
him.
ripping them off with some of these images, but we thought
It
that's
doesn't matter.
what would be interesting more than just maybe a small retailer that would be hard to actually have somebody in the space that was provided, but just do a cool sculptural bench with some nice lighting that could really kind of
Mhm.
illuminate that street at night.
Yeah, well, he's more about the neon strips than a full wash, but that would be a little bit much, I think, for Clayton. So what you're showing is a little bit more the Mondrian version of Dan Flavin, but I think that's still a really nice idea. So but for the PUD, I had nothing. So you're good.
David?
The planting in the right of way, is that going to be irrigated and maintained by the property owner
I would hope so, yeah.
through a use and maintenance agreement or something?
Yeah,
like that
same
we
thing
can
with
put in
the
place?
pocket park and all, we want all that to work.
Okay. I think that's it for me. My only question.
Any other comments from the audience? Are there any hands up? Ryan? See. Okay, we've gone through rezoning, planned unit development, site plan review. We really haven't gone through the staff report for the other two items. Can we vote on everything at one time, or need we do all three separate votes?
Separate votes. Yep. Yep. So my introduction, I pulled pieces from the staff report for the PUD rezoning and site plan, as well as the architectural review. I can do a quick summary of the plat. That's the other one that they're going for. It's very straightforward, though. They meet all of the criteria for a major subdivision plat. So we recommend approval for that one as well.
Okay. Well, then I think we can probably proceed to three separate votes at this point. I wanted to make a couple comments. This is one of the projects in downtown Clayton that really fills the site. But I think you've done very well in making it work for pedestrians with the wider sidewalks, the alley, which at first I was very hesitant about, but it looks like it may develop very nicely, and with the added greenery. And I certainly support what's already been said, that the sidewalk should be as wide as possible. So I really want to commend you for doing that work at the ground level, which works well. Architecturally, if you go up to I think the third floor, is that a residential floor without balconies?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that slide. So it is still a residential floor. So I don't know if you can see my screen right now. So before is what we had. We were worried. Some of the feedback we got was that there was kind of all of the same all the way up. So we wanted to add more of a middle to the building. So we took the brow that wasn't projected, pulled it up one level, but we don't have commercial program beyond that, nor could we park it. So we had apartments beyond. So again, before or after, all we did was take out the balconies and extend that brow up.
I like what you did. I just don't remember in looking at the drawings whether floor 3 was commercial or residential.
Residential.
And I guess I can see it with the potential opening windows.
Correct. So we'd still pull some operability down to that frame. And like I said, we added some white banding of frit that would pull those vertical lines from the balconies above down to that base. So subtle detail, but we were hopeful the subtleness would be something nice.
On the Carondelet side, on the second floor, the open area, will that, yeah, there.
Oh, sorry.
Will that remain open or will it have some closure?
So that there may be, and we're still programming what will happen at the facade beyond, eventually with the office tenant if the project is approved, but the idea being maybe there's an accordion door or something that opens it up to their social space, their kitchen space. But the idea is they could have an event and they could spill out on that balcony. Originally, we had it on the west facade at the concept review. But as we did some more solar studies, we were concerned about the harshness. There's no buildings immediately across the street. So when they would have an event at 5, 6, 7 in the evening, there was some concern about what that would be like. So we moved it to this facade.
I really like it how it looks right now.
Thank you.
Then on that same elevation, is the glass plane of the tower in the same plane as the glass on the garage?
Correct. So we use that plane and also just the structural frame of the building and how we could offset glass from column lines and so on, that kind of set that edge. And then there's the protected brow that frames that commercial space and then up to the third floor that projects beyond that. But everything else is kind of plus or minus 8 inches around that plane of glass. If that makes sense.
Well, I think it looks good where the brow turns down, but what happens below it where the two intersect?
Here?
Yeah.
I have a shot of that. There's basically just kind of a gasket, not necessarily a rubber gasket, but like a gasket between the two architecture. I don't know if I could, it's in the animation. But basically there's a frame, a projected mullion. I think I was calling out something 8 to 10 inches that frames the garage piece. And then it comes up to the 2-foot projected frame. And there's just like a reveal in between the two. That makes sense.
Okay,
So that you can see this frame around the garage turns down and this frame occurs and there's a 4 to 6 inch recess that would just be kind of occur in shadow.
so then the garage frame comes all the way down and turns and goes east.
Yeah, there's basically at the garage, we're showing a projected mullion cap. So different than obviously the composite metal banding around the commercial space, but there's just some additional detailing that's separate. We kind of thought the garage was its own piece of architecture as you turn the building, but of the same family, if that makes sense, of the tower.
So they're both continuous in their respective buildings.
Correct.
Then when we go up to the roof again, I really don't care for the huge mechanical screen up there. But I think the only two things, one would cost you a lot of money, which I recommended before, so we won't go there. But maybe you look at some color to paint or have an anodized color up there that might be sort of a sky color.
Yeah.
That would not detract from the rest of the building. Because
So-
right now, when I look at this elevation down here, to me, it detracts from the building.
Understood. And we're using a corrugated perforated metal. So again, it's not just a flat sheet metal. And it's also got the minimum openness. So it's not too transparent, but it's not flat in terms of transparency. And then we also are introducing kind of two different colors. One would be a galvanized. So like there is some patterning to it. You can see it in some of those images, but we wanted it to be something beyond just a flat metal leftover garage or mechanical screen.
Well, hopefully it'll be very visually recessive.
Yeah, that was the idea. Is it's light and airy and kind of reflective and like in the spirit of like some galvanated aluminum. So it's got some sheen to it and kind of disappears with the sky was what we were hopeful of.
I'm okay. Any other comments?
I just want to say thank you for making the changes. And thank you for being able to have both the pocket park and the kind of wavy element, I guess, on Carondelet. I'm glad you guys were able to make both of those work. I just wanted to make sure the alley will be open from Beamiston, I'm assuming, right, throughout construction.
I believe it has to just for Centene and how, because you pull down and
Want to make,
through, right?
there's a great pet store, which I don't know if may use the dog run once it's open. So
Yeah.
I just know they're concerned.
Oh, you mean access into that pocket
Yes, I
park?
just, yeah.
Yeah,
it's open both. So I just want to, I know they're a little concerned because they know something's happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
I'm sure
open.
you guys will be good when construction starts. So.
Yeah. I can't speak to the specific construction plan, but the idea is, yeah, maybe there was something submitted with civil, but.
Yeah, as of right now, they're not shutting the alley off completely. I know Public Works will give final approval of the construction plan and how the alley will open and close. I'm sure there's going to be moments, as there are with all projects, that barrier within the alley will have to be adjusted for different elements of construction. But right now, the goal is to maintain some through access.
Okay, yeah, it's just the main parking for those retail stores are, off the alley, so, or behind the businesses off the alley, so.
Anything else? Anyone? David? Carolyn? Okay.
Oh,
Well,
no, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. No.
Thank you. Following up on what Bridget said, where we started, I think this has come a long way. It's a beautiful building. Personally, I like a glass building. And
I think as a team, we feel like we like the building too. Like we like the adjustments made.
Good.
So.
I like to hear that. So I think we'll move on to a couple of votes. And first of all, on the first one, the rezoning and the PUD, that'll be a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen with 6 conditions. You've heard them. Do you agree to them?
That related to the, I know, Anna, you went through them earlier, but I don't have them memorized.
Yeah, they were the ones in the staff report. These are mostly conditions that we would include within a PUD ordinance. So you do comply with a lot of them. A few of them you will just have to confirm when you actually get to the construction document side of it. But nothing would require any changes for the Board of Aldermen. These are just recommendations for the ordinance approval.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and then we'll take the vote.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the staff recommendation as we just went through with the 6 conditions to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen. And do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve to the Board of Aldermen with the staff recommendation, 6 staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 1 down. And of course, we've talked about the architectural review. And this one does not go to the Board of Aldermen. And we have a recommendation to approve as submitted. You've heard comments, but do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then the third one, which Anna described, which was the major subdivision plat. And that will be recommended to the Board of Aldermen with the 3 conditions, which I believe you alluded to without reading completely. Hopefully you've seen those in the write-up. I see heads shaking. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the staff 3 staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Also, Steve, we do have the site plan review.
Sorry.
Site plan review, which does not go to the Board of Aldermen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was in the first one. Site plan review. I don't think we had any specific recommendation.
Correct.
Do we have a motion to approve the site plan review? Carolyn?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're really done. So thank you for all the work and the time you put in. And we appreciate it. We're ready to see it go up. Okay. Before we leave, Kami, do you have any further comments?
Nothing further.
Not a thing.
Bob? No. Richard?
No.
Carolyn?
Nope.
David?
Nope.
Stephanie?
Nothing this evening.
Didn't even hear from you tonight. Brian?
No.
Anna?
No, so we finished accepting forms, interest forms for the community at large representatives for the steering committee for the comp plan. Sent those out earlier today to Carolyn, Kami, and Helen. So we'll go over those and hopefully make some decisions to finalize that next week. Also been working on the actual scope for the comprehensive plan contract with the consultants. The goal is to have that go before the Board of Aldermen for approval of the contract on the 11th of April. No, we stopped accepting those last Friday was the last day to submit.
Did you guys, sorry, did you publicly announce which firm got it? yet?
We haven't done any sort of announcement
Okay.
through this as soon as our proposed contract goes to the Board of Aldermen, that's kind of will
Got
be
it.
the
Okay.
announcement.
People are asking on the playground.
Yeah. Yeah. So as of right now, we haven't sent anything out since we're still working with them on the items of the scope, but it'll go live very shortly. And that's all.
I had one other thing, and I think we've talked about it before, but when we looked at the proposed house on 227 Crandon, I'm concerned because they were at 54.9% impervious coverage. And maybe we need to rethink that whole impervious coverage going forward, because the houses seem to be getting as big and the coverage as high as possible. Some of the houses are really getting too big.
Right. One of the elements that we've worked into the proposed scope is a really basic analysis of just by neighborhood, seeing where the coverage is and looking at that. So I think it is definitely something on the list that we'll have when we go through that full code rewrite, updating our definitions of impervious cover, all of that sort of, and items under the lens of sustainability will be important.
If there's nothing else, we are dismissed. Meeting adjourned.